Hi again. We're back for a bit more work with CAD. Now that you've gone through the first few videos and you've seen a quick intro of really basic things you can make, we went through part, went through a drawing briefly, and we went through a quick and simple assembly. Well, now I want to go back and let's do something serious. And we'll start out by doing a deep tour of the interface in the part environment. So let's get started. So here we are with just the blank Solidworks window. Nothing's open. So the first thing we need to do is open a file. We'll make a new file. And it'll be a part file. And so there we are. Now you've seen this already. We did this very quickly in the previous video. Well, over on the left, this control area is really important. First of all, there's the feature manager, and that shows up with this little yellow block, and underneath it are a bunch of things. Now this part has nothing in it yet, so this isn't a very exciting list, but we'll get to that. There's the property manager, which will enable us to view different properties of things that we create. We can make different configurations, which essentially are views in the workspace. There's some more tools here, and we can adjust appearances. So for the most part, we're going to be working with this feature monitor, and then for more advanced work, we can play with some of the other tools. You'll see over on the right some more tools, and they do slightly different things. So for the beginner, let's just focus on worrying about what's on the left-hand side here. So just like the last video, I'm going to start off by creating an extrusion. So I'm going to do extruded boss base. The frame comes up with the main planes that exist, and I'll just select the top plane that we'll work on. And just like before, I made a rectangle and I made a circle. And if I click the little blue button at the top, because this was an extrusion tool, maybe I'll make this 50 millimeters. There. And so we're back to something similar to what we had before, except I didn't put dimensions on it. So you can see that now over in the feature manager, this new feature we've created shows up. So everything in building a solid part consists of creating features, and if you click the little black arrow beside it, features are all based on sketches. And that's a really important concept to keep in mind. We always start with a sketch somehow. Sometimes it's buried in here, but there's always a sketch. And the feature is created from the sketch. Now, one of the things we can do is we can open up the sketch, and I just show you that again. I just right click on that sketch, and this opens up a bunch of things I can do. Most important is I can edit the sketch. I can also hide it or show it. So what I just did was I clicked that, so now that sketch will always be visible, and you can see there it is. But I can go in and edit that sketch. So I use the sketch to create the extruded boss base. Maybe what I'd like to do is, now that I'm editing that sketch, it looks kind of funny because it's buried within the extrusion, but maybe I forgot to put another hole there. So I'm just going to draw that. Now it looks kind of odd the way I drew it, but you can see here that it's actually on the sketch plane, even though I was drawing it in a different view. And I'm going to click accept there, and now it's taken that and thought it was a new hole, But that wasn't what I wanted. I can go back here into the Boss Extrusion tool, and I can edit the feature. And this button at the bottom, Select Contours. So the way it assumes that everything I drew in the sketch is going to be something in the extrusion. It does really well if it's a bounded, contained shape. If I did anything different with that shape, like if I put this this circle, if I put it out here, then it's going to do something very strange with it, like this. Now, it still thought that maybe that was an extrusion, but it didn't quite know what to do with it. And that's not what I intended. In fact, if I go back to Edit and I pick Select Contours, this tool allows me to just pick only that contour that I want to extrude, like so. So now I've got this sketch that has some extra junk in it. And that's really useful because sometimes you don't want to just have one type of feature. You may want to have multiple types of features. So now, for instance, this extrusion feature, perhaps I want to add to that a revolved feature. Well, what's that? Well, first of all, it's looking for a plane or a sketch. I'm going to pick that. And it's looking for an axis of revolution. I'm going to pick that. And selected contours, it's done kind of the same thing. It's picked all of those things in that feature. I only want that selected contour. And so now what I've got is this feature that's based on the same sketch. I only have one sketch. It's this one. But now I've got a much more complicated device. I can go into that sketch now that I've kind of created it, and I can move these things around. Now the part's quite different. Now that maybe wasn't what I wanted, and so by editing only the sketch, I can change things quite a bit. So for instance, I can start adding in the sketch some relationships. I can scroll around, and you'll notice that if you hover over a line, that it selects different features of that line. This is the midpoint. I'm just going to right click that. Oops. And if I didn't want to do that, there, right click, select that. I guess I left clicked that. And if I hold down the control key and select the center of that point, if I make those horizontal, then if I then go and try and move this, it only lets me move it horizontal to the midpoint of that line. So I've constrained it. Now I can also change dimensions. There's my diameter, and maybe I want to make that 20 millimeters. And maybe I want to make the distance from here to be 30 millimeters. And now I've got a slightly different looking thing. Not saying that this is anything useful, but we can make a whole lot of changes to editing this. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that now in this feature manager, we started off with that basic extrusion based upon the sketch. Well, now we have another feature, which is a revolution based upon the same sketch. And we can add more things. We can make a cut. We can make an extruded cut. So I select that tool and it looks for maybe a side. I click that side and now I can actually draw something on the side. And we'll see, maybe I don't want to go through 50 millimeters, and I could just simply drag this, or I could specify a dimension, whatever. There, so I've done a little cut into the side. And again, you can see that it's created a new feature in the feature manager tree. So in terms of making parts, what you'll do is you'll build up this feature tree to get every successive feature that you add or cut from the part, and it'll show you the history of how you created the part. Now, really good designers, really good CAD users will have this a fairly short sequence of parts, basically trying to make a complicated thing using as simple elements or simple geometry as possible. It's really useful to know that if you're not sure when an error comes in, you can just take that, grab it with the mouse click and roll it back. And by rolling it back, you can get rid of parts to see what you were doing. You could also insert a new feature wherever this blue line on the feature manager tree is. And you'll notice that there's a little stop green light here when I rolled it back, and that's saying that that the model needs to be rebuilt before it will be fully true. You click the rebuild button and that should be rebuilt. It's giving me an error there. It doesn't like my sketch. And so whenever you get errors in SolidWorks, and you frequently will, you can just open up the sketch, go here and edit the sketch, and find out what its problem is. Looks good to me there. Maybe it's a problem with the plane. Oh, that's okay. It just didn't like the plane that was specified, and it was happy when I opened up the plane and then saved it again. So now it's showing no red green lights, no red X's, things all look good. We've got this wonky looking part. So that's enough for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll start again looking at some more details of how to use SolidWorks in the next video.